not only Adobe Expert, but also Adobe Master. So yeah, I just received this a couple of weeks ago. So today we are going to talk about a pretty interesting topic regarding API monitoring in Adobe Commerce and Cloud projects. So it also relates to Adobe Commerce, but it's more about Adobe Commerce and Cloud. So few words about me. In general, I have more than over a decade of experience working with Adobe Commerce and Magento related projects. As I said, I'm certified expert and master, and now I'm a technical architect in a Perficient company, which is really great company. Also, I created a couple of training programs for PHP developers, and some of them, I would say most of them, become successful Magento developers. And in general, what I want to say that I'm a big fan of Magento, Adobe Commerce. So I started more than 10 years ago with Ben Mark's video tutorials, and I believe some of you know what I'm talking about. And the interesting thing about Magento that I personally think that Magento is one of the most customizable solutions, e-commerce solutions in the world. And the interesting thing about that is that as a result, we can use Adobe Commerce, Magento open source, not only for the typical commerce store, right? We can use this for systems, for example, where you can pay your bills, where you can pay your rent, where you can pay for your internet provider. So it's not just a typical commerce site where you just sell some T-shirts or furniture, right? And I have more and more such projects. And on the recent project, on the last project, we had a huge amount of integrations. We performed more than 2 million of requests a day for more than 50 different API endpoints. And as a result, we learned a lot of interesting things regarding API monitoring. And I believe that it also can be useful for any project, even just for a typical commerce project. So let's say we have typical commerce project, right? And we need to send some data to CRM system for customers. We need some data for orders, for ERP system, some address validation, email verifications, some payment method, shipping method. So at least 5, 6 different API endpoints we need to have for sure, right? And let's imagine next situation that, for example, we received another one project, and unfortunately we don't have availability to discuss something with the developers who implemented this project, right? And we need to support this, right? And what is the first thing you need to do, right? So probably you want to, update your LinkedIn profile and update your CV because you expect pretty interesting time. But in general, we can try to fix it, and we can try to support this. So in general, this project is a black box for us, right? And another interesting thing is that you can't understand everything. You can't be familiar with all the functionality you have in this project, right? So you implemented some module, but you are not familiar with another one side of that. And the problem is that, when we need to support such kind of projects, we need to triage problems, we need to monitor them, and we need to understand what is the source of this issue. So let's talk about challenges we have here. So let's imagine we have some typical problem. We have this project, and we see that for some reason we send some information to another one ERP system and receive an error, right? And we need to do something. And in this case, the first thing we need to do, we need to find some related information related to this request, right? And usually it's just some number of different text files stored in different locations. So we can use New Relic to search through all of them, but it's just mess of data. And okay, we found this issue. Then we need to understand what is wrong with that. And the better way to understand this is compare this request with a similar successful request, right? But again, if we don't have structured data, it's really takes some time. And once we see that the problem is here, we need to find more information about that and provide more details to dev team and even like provide the source of this issue. So, and as a result, like, first of all, we need to understand that we can't use any third-party tool because it's always a challenge to get an approval. It can be, we may have some problems with security policies. It can be expensive, especially for the enterprise level projects. And it's always better to understand what we have, and probably we already have everything we need. So it should be fully automatic because we can't have dedicated team who can monitor this instead of us. So we should receive notifications every time something went wrong, right? And the last thing is that like it should be simple, right? So the tool we need to use, they should be simple, they should be familiar with, for all the developers. So ideally it should be 1-2 page of user guide where any developer not familiar with the project can just check this and say, okay, I understand how to monitor a project, how to help identify the problems. Okay, so here we see the list of software we have in Adobe Commerce and Cloud project. So, and we are going to discuss and we are going to use a couple of them. So the first one is New Relic, for sure, it's a powerful tool, but probably we can tune up this a bit for our needs. And the interesting thing is that we can use business intelligence for us. So, and also probably database, but let's discuss this a bit later. So before we move on, so a few words about architecture, right? So in case we have an opportunity to create something from scratch and we are going to create at least 2-3 different integrations, my recommendation is to spend a bit more time and create some basic module where we can implement all the logic for storing logs, for configurations, and other things, and then like you can just inherit this module and use this functionality in a lot of places. So in general, on my last project, every time we need to create or handle another one endpoint, API endpoint, we just added few lines of configuration in XML file and just added probably one PHP file. And that's it. Everything else should be inherited from this basic model. And the most important part is that like all the requests should go through one place. This is really important because if we are going to monitor this, we need that one. So if you don't want to create a lot of plugins and events to gather that information, but the one place will be a great solution for that one. So let's say we have one place and we have availability to log all the requests and response we have. So usually we use a file for that. But we realized the next thing, that like it's pretty easy and simple solution, and it's pretty powerful. We can use custom events in New Relic. It's kind of like creation of another one table in New Relic database. And developers are familiar with New Relic and they can use this. By default, it's kind of challengeable and difficult to understand how we can use this for monitoring some particular API endpoints and to see what is wrong, because as a result, the main problem that we may have a lot of false positive alerts, and that because we do not fully control the data we have here. So that's why, in this case, the best way here is to create this custom event. And in this one place, so where all the requests go through this place, so we can add information regarding each request we make, right? And then we can store as much details as we want. And as a result, we can have something like that. So this is like real example of custom object which we created for pretty huge project. And here, like on a test environment, we see that we can see in real time all the errors, more than 500. So this means, so usually when like a third party returns some error code from something from 400 to 500, that means that something is wrong with our data. It's just in general. And if it's something more than 500, that means that something is wrong with the server side, right? With the third party server. So in this case, we can monitor how it's going on. So and we can quickly check like is it spike and now everything is okay, or is it like we have a bad trend and we have increase of those errors. Another one thing is that like we can use this to create alerts. And the great thing, so we can add any data we want, we can fully control those data, and then based on this data, we can create alerts in New Relic, and we can send notification, so we can set a threshold, and based on this threshold, we can send notification to via text messages, Google Chat, Slack, anything you want, so it's up to you. So in general, it's almost database, right? But the problem is that it's almost. And we used this approach on another one project and realized that this is even more powerful than the New Relic event. So we created a table, log table in database, and we stored logs in this table. And we realized that MySQL provides such powerful tools like this function, JSON extract. That means that, for example, as I described it before, so we have this error, right? And we need to get similar requests like that. But let's imagine we have a ton of them, right? And for example, we see that like request to another state work fine, but for this particular state, for this particular product, for this particular tax class, we have a problem. So we need to compare this request with similar requests, right? And in this case, we use this function a lot. So in general, what this function does is that like we can set something like, hey, I want to get all the requests where in request we have the field SKU equals this, where the field country is US, where the field state is this one, and then based on this information, we can search like inside JSON object, and this is really powerful. And the bad thing about that it's still database, and we understand that if we provide an access to production database to developers, it can be a problem, right? Another one thing that usually for triaging of tickets, we also need an access to not only to the logs, but production data like sales order table, sales order item table, code table. And at the same time, we can't get this information from admin panel. And we need to provide this access. And usually this access just provided to a couple of guys, let's say technical architect or technical lead. And the last thing we want that those guys will spend their time for triaging and investigating those tickets, right? And another one thing that like it's really dangerous to provide an access to production database because it's not like, yes, this person can remove all the products, all the orders in database, but we understand that even select can break production. Like it's like the size of temporary file will become the huge and production will down. So providing an access to production database is not an option, but it's really useful. And that's where we see this really interesting tool for us. Actually, this is Magento Business Intelligence. And I was a bit surprised that a lot of developers don't know what is it. And this tool was designed especially just to show some reports for customers, like how many orders we have, how many customers we have, and so on. But we realized that it's a pretty interesting tool because in general, how it works, it's a replica of our database, of our production database. And even more, like we can sync not only some particular tables, but we can choose which columns we want to share, right? So for example, we have some For triaging, for investigation, like we need to provide an access to sales order table, customer table, and other tables. But due to security policies in our project, we can't share, for example, emails or other things like payment data or something like that. So in this case, we can choose just necessary columns, and we can sync only them, right? So, and this is a really powerful tool. So this actually, let's say we added some tables which we need for triaging, including our log table. And this is only read-only access, so this is totally safe. We can provide an access to any developers, and they will not break anything in our production. And then we can use SQL syntaxes to get information from that database. I know that it's not designed for those needs, but it's perfectly does what we need. So, and usually we can choose between several types of synchronizations, but like right now, we synchronize this like almost in real time, but for the huge tables, it takes about 2-3 hours to sync all the data. I would say if you have like million of records, so it takes a couple of hours to sync the data. So, but usually it's not a problem. So if we need to triage something and we can't provide an access to production database, it can be a really option. Another one thing is that like every time we have a problem in production, we need to understand the priority of that ticket, right? So we need to understand how much orders, how much customers affected by this issue. And the good thing is that like using this query, for example, this is real query from real project, where we can get information like we can get a trend. We can see is it spike or is it like ongoing issue which should be fixed and so on. So, and that's how we can use this. And as a result, we can also create fancy dashboards where we can create those charts based on those SQL queries. And as a result, you can just open this dashboard. You will see a lot of such charts, and you will understand the status of your project. And you can quickly provide a response for your project manager and say, is it important? Do we need to triage this right now? And so on. And the last but not least, that another one interesting thing. So let's say we have New Relic. Let's say we have this custom object. Let's say we have all the notifications. So we received notifications that something went wrong, right? We received this pretty quickly. We quickly understand is it spike or ongoing issue, so we can get similar requests, similar successful requests. We can understand is it something went wrong without it. And let's assume like real example. We see that for similar requests, similar successful requests, we send some section, for example, tax section, right? But for the request with an error, we don't have this section. And we clearly don't understand what is the source of this issue, right? We need to find who should fix this, which team. And in this case, Adobe Commerce on Cloud provides really great tools. They provide this Xdebug in production. So it's already installed, it's already up, like ready for use. So, and you can debug the code with the real production data in real time without affecting of performance. The only issue here that like we can use only one session at the time, so we can't debug several several developers can use this at the same time, so only one user per one session. But at the same time, this is really powerful tool. And taking into account this, we realized the following. So it's really useful to have kind of functionality which provides us to send some particular customer, send some particular order And then if we can do this, and we don't do this in batches, and we see that we have a problem with some particular order, we can, using this functionality, we can enable Xdebug in production, and we can go through the code via Xdebug, and we will see how our code, our production code, use a production database, and then we can see the particular place in the code which should lead to this issue. And yeah, we use this a lot, and now really it's really easy for us to triage, to investigate any issues in production, and that's how we do this. Thank you.